I remember those days, even the schools. You go, you recite the national anthem. We have the boys' brigade. We have the scouts. We have certain simple morals. And also, the youth of today want to be rich as at yesterday. Nobody wants to serve. Majority of them don't want to serve. So certain core values, patriotism and nationalism is not there. And it is becoming a bit of an issue. I attribute most of them to leadership. I have started most programs in my own small corner to also train the youth. Nobody gets close to me. You can never come to work with me and live the same. You will surely learn something. And I will never drop my standards to your standards. My standard is efficiency and consistency. Also, most of the youth today don't have integrity. And integrity is supposed to come from within. So it's like catch-22. It's rhyming all over. I was listening to you yesterday, and it's sad to hear people struggling to create business and paying people, and they are stealing from them. It is very sad. And my advice to employers that, you see, I have a philosophy. Don't touch what you cannot manage. And you get what you expect. You don't get what you expect. And don't give up because you can train 5 people. At least 2 will stay. 3 will be bad not. But you should have certain principles as an employer and stick to those principles and never drop your standards. I have a simple, typical example. I brought 2 Indians to my company. 1 finance, 1 HR. I sent a mail to deputy finance, in charge of compliance. I send a mail. Normally my peak hours are from 4:30 to 6 o'clock. I send a mail as early as 5 a.m. The Indian man saw the mail in the inbox. Because the mail was not directed to him, he did not respond to the mail. He was waiting for the head of compliance to respond to the mail. As at 4 p.m., he had not responded to the mail. So he walked to his office and said, "Have you seen chairman's mail?" The employee told him that, "Who are you to tell me whether I should respond to my mail?"
Oh.
Yes. So I am looking at it from different angles. This Indian didn't tell me. It took him 2 months in a management meeting before he said it. So you realize that those within there, he came in. He said, "Where it's coming from? If your boss sends you mail 2 hours and you don't respond, you are home.
You get fired.
You get fired. 2 hours. If your boss mail sits in your inbox 2 hours, you are fired." But this employee told him that, "Who are you?" So he said, "Are things done differently here?" So he kept quiet. And he also started reducing his standard. Because he came in with a certain standard. He's in a foreign land. Let me sit back and watch and deliver. So this is what happened. And it is very, very serious.
That's an interesting example.
Yeah.
Doc, I want you to stay with us. We also have Professor Peter Quartey on the line. He's the director of the Institute of Statistical, Social and Economic Research, ISA. He's also an entrepreneur. Prof. Quartey, it's a pleasure to have you. Good morning.
Good morning, Kujo, and good morning to your discerning listeners and to Mr. Magdan as well.
Now, we also have in the studio Mr. Seth Tekwe, who is the former Finance Minister under the John Mahama administration. It's a pleasure to see you once again, Mr. Tekwe. How are you?
I'm well.
Good.
And good morning to your listeners.
Wonderful.
And to your colleagues, everybody in the studio.
Lovely. Thank you so much for coming. Right, Prof. Quartey, I want us to start with you. Now, you have I suppose, examples of both, because you are an employee, you work for an organization, but you've also been an employer because you are an entrepreneur. Yesterday, there was that battle between whether it is the fault of the employer for not properly incentivizing and motivating his staff, or the fault of the employee for simply having a bad attitude. Where do you fall on that debate?
Well, Kojo, when you listen, when I also listened to them, and I was quite amazed at some of the things that were being said. One of the reasons you find is somebody feels he's been wronged by the employer. But one of the reasons for employee test, he's been wronged by the employer, or he feels the employer is not watching and too busy. Some feel they are underpaid. And sometimes the mindset or greed, opportunity to be wealthy or to be rich today or yesterday, and at times peer influence. You come in an environment and colleagues help you to join them to steal. It's quite a difficult one. And I situate some of these discussions in what I term the Marxist thinking. You see, in Karl Marx readings or writings, you see that there are two groups of people, the bourgeoisie and the proletariat. The proletariat, that is the workers, think the bourgeoisie are basically exploiting them. And therefore, any opportunity or chance they get, they also have to get their fair share. So they revolt in Marx thinking. It's only by revolting that you get your fair share. And I see that in our culture. I must say that there are very good workers out there. There are very good workers out there. My only disappointment is that sometimes when you bring some of them close to money, it becomes something different altogether. But they are very good workers with good attitudes out there. I spoke with my tax expert, and also when you speak with entrepreneurs like Mr. McDonald, you realize entrepreneurs have common ideas or share common goals or have had similar experiences. What is happening is that it's so scary for you to expand. And I like the point Mr. McDonald raised. If you cannot manage something, don't touch it. It means you have to be physically present to check every aspect of your business. Otherwise, if you are not around, your business will not grow. We've seen Richard Branson, we've seen other companies grow without necessarily being physically present. Why is it that in our case, you are free to expand? I've had several opportunities to expand my business. I have acquired land and everything, but I'm scared.
What are you afraid might happen?
You have to be there to supervise. You have to be physically present to supervise. Otherwise, the stealing, the theft, you will run into debt. As I serve on the board of a bank and I see a lot of companies lose their property because of some of this theft, it scares me. It puts me away. So I feel let me manage the one I can manage very well with my family. I run a business with my wife. We will run it. We'll be physically present and check as much as possible. Because as you expand, you need to be going around supervising, and you might not have the time to do everything. That is the difficulty. Yes. That is why we have unemployment escalating in this country. Because people feel more comfortable buying treasurables rather than putting into investment to employ people. Most business owners, when you speak to them, they will tell you, if I had known, I would have bought treasurables, receive 14 or 15%, or now it's even about 13.5%. You don't struggle. You get your money. Each year you go on holidays. As I speak, I don't remember the last time I went on holiday. I used to go on visiting as a visiting scholar to IMF, to Brookings. Difficult to go. Your spare time, you have to spend it to check things, and you invest in technology. If you don't have time to check on the technology, they will use the technology to steal. It is a difficult terrain we find ourselves. That is why people are going for expatriate. I spoke with a colleague who runs a hotel. He says, look, I brought an expat from South Africa. He's doing marvelously well. And I heard Mr. McDonald speak about the Indian man as well. So, you see, we are importing everything, including toothpick, And now we are importing labor. Do we have a future in this country? I think our workers have to change their mindset. We need to work. We need to know about apprenticeship. I had a similar experience. I was working with my boss. We did some work, and I thought I should have been paid more. Then I heard Pastor Otabel preach about apprenticeship. That changed my perception. And today, I am what I am because I understood apprenticeship. But many of the young people do not appreciate apprenticeship. Today, when they work with you, they see profit. Revenue is not profit. Before they joined the company, there was this infrastructure. Maybe the owner took a loan to put up the structure. It has to be paid for. All the utilities and what have you has to be paid for. So you don't see sales and think that is profit. No. Employees go home, they sleep. Most entrepreneurs at times hardly sleep. One time I had a call from somebody looking for a job around 1 a.m. So I asked him, gentlemen, do you know the time? He said, yes. I know at this time great minds are thinking.
Wow.
And it was true.
Did he get the job?
I didn't, because I thought there was something wrong with him. So yes, that's the problem. Most entrepreneurs hardly ever get 8 hours of sleep, always thinking how to run the business, how to ensure sustainability. But you grab your pay, you go and sleep. So I think there has to be a change in mindset, people's mindsets. Otherwise, we are in for trouble. Unemployment will continue to escalate. The private sector that we count as the engine of growth might not be the engine.
That's a fascinating point on which I think I can very easily segue onto Mr. Seth Tekwe, because you've said something important here. The private sector is supposed to be the engine of growth, but we have a private sector that is afraid to grow because of the human element, and unemployment is rising. I mean, COVID-19 alone, according to the TUC, has cleared 500,000 jobs. That's 500,000 more people to compete for work. Mr. Tekwe, I mean, you've managed this economy before. How much of this human factor do you think contributed to any of the challenges that our economy has faced over the years?
Well, thank you very much. Before I get there, let me also explain that within a year of our marriage, my wife decided to stop her public service employment and start a family business. So we have run taxi before.
Wow.
We have been liver and Coca-Cola distribution before. The business has declined because when we went outside most of the time, and like one person said, even when you are outside, you are hoping that the managers who have been on the job with you for a while would manage, as was said,
yeah.
Your absence. But that's rather a signal, so I do share some, but let me also state before I get to maybe you want a role of the state, but that what I've heard this morning is very important, because the perception often is that it's SMEs, that suffer the sort of thing we are talking about today. Taxi, someone has a shop and he takes a second one, even if it's adjacent, or even if the person is present and still the stealing and things, go on. But for one of our large entrepreneurs, to be talking about, and I've had engagement over the years as Deputy Minister, Policy Minister with the Employers Association, and I've had. And these are large, our employers associations are usually large. And these complaints, work attitudes, management responsibility and others, come up a lot. I think Mr. McDonald is pointed to training, and you can see that most large entities, take training seriously.
Yeah.
But it doesn't seem, to even make. And even when you motivate, as I said, even when I pay my employees well, as I believe my wife, did.
Tekwe Transport is a good place to work.
No, we stopped. We folded.
Oh,
that was the
wow.
first business. Yes. Taxis and trotro and I must say I'm open. We folded, and that was when we moved. It was being done parallel with the distribution, so we focused. Distribution is a bit, okay, your accounting and everything is well done by Lever Brothers, Coca-Cola. But let me give you an example. Employees could go and make deliveries in the name of your company for a whole truckload of, say, Coca-Cola or,
Meanwhile, it's not.
And that's why it's offline invoice in your name.
Wow.
Then you are, yes. And somebody signs, he never went for the load. Yes. So what they are talking about, but I also a bit saddened because having worked in the IMF, if Professor Kwame can say that the quality time that professors, and some of them take their sabbatical to work with the fund, not with other universities, with the World Bank and others, and they get deeper understanding of global, how other countries work in terms of, what they are applying. But if you had to sacrifice this, then you can see the sort of sacrifice that, that's why I said that it's showing different dimensions, of the problem. And yesterday I listened keenly. Yes, there was the employee side, but as has been said, you have invested. And sometimes yesterday was complained about low salary.
Yes.
Right? But if I'm not making the profit, then what it means is that if I take you on as a regular employer and there's the issue of contract employment, right, which means that you are self-employed, you are working for your contract, either your social security will be low and by the time you retire you are not, or if the employer gives you a salary raise, that commitment is there, so he's paying it by himself in the absence of profit. And that explains why you have some of these situations
with the low salary.
Yes. And coming to the state, Maslow is a good example. You all know it, the loans that are not paid. Of course there's a political aspect, but one would also think that if even if you take it in partisan terms and I'm given the opportunity to take a loan, I don't take it as like this. I should see it as a facility you must repay, and a party being committed. But we know, the story of Maslow. Whether it's taxes that are given to people to run, and sometimes these are people who maybe are drivers. But if you don't learn to manage somebody's assets, when you get your assets, you will not be able to run it, properly. And so, yes, it's an issue which, but we do have training. For SMEs, maybe we need to expand it, like the National Board for Small Scale Industry. They do training for SMEs, regularly. I know there are about 2 or so agencies under the Ministry of Trade in particular, that there's some training, and they have regional and even district present to be doing. So maybe we need to expand that, by way of skills, and then management skills, and then for SMEs also sometimes the reason they don't, there's another angle, is that your sales, I always advise, your sales is not your profit, because there's a tendency for SMEs to take the sales, and that is what you take out for daily, take your cost out, see whether you can go and take some more goods, you can pay that loan, another thing. So I think this discussion is really welcome, especially going into a major review around a difficult time like this for SMEs in particular. Because the first to suffer in terms of stay at home will be SMEs, because they are not breaking even, maybe the shop is closed and all that, and because profits were not made in the past, there's no buffer whatsoever. And I think it's something which requires special attention.
And we are going to spend a lot more time talking about the upcoming media review, but I want us to wrap up on this issue of advice for employers.
Let me inject quickly.
Sure.
That we have been discussing the owner side of the banking collapse, and lack of profit and others. There is employees, conversation as to why some of those banks, especially SNL, which are smaller and even the larger ones. Because if you can have Mr. Magdan large complaining, you can expect that, as I said, there are other employers, so that itself could be a factor. And we must see, as Professor Korte said, that the tendency of importing everything and now labor, it's not something that will make the country grow.
Absolutely. It's an important point. You can easily imagine that some banks might have employees who do not show full commitment when it comes to things like recovering loans, managing customers' accounts, and so forth, and that would certainly lead to financial difficulties. Thank you for that, Mr. Macaulay. I think I want to get the final word on this from you. I don't think there's anyone else on the panel who has more experience, working with people and employees, and you've made some very important points already. So I'm wondering, so for a person starting out. You started out, you were the same person who would travel into the hinterlands and buy your coffee and corn and bring it to Accra, and then, you would be the same person who would process it and get it shipped and all of that. You were doing it yourself. At a point, though, you had to scale up. Professor Korte talks about how much fear grips an entrepreneur when it comes to scaling up and giving up responsibility. How did you manage that?
Kodo, one thing I would want to say that we can't quit, no matter how difficult it is. We can't quit to leave the space for foreigners to grow here. And you ask yourself one question. The Lebanese, they do very well with our own people. The Indians do very well with our own people. But why can't we do so well? I'd like breaking down some of these things because I came out with a theory of three cycle of a company. You have the infant stage, you have the organic stage, and you have the corporate stage. You see, you don't need, when you are getting to the corporate stage, you don't need a strong personality. You need a strong systems and structures. In the infant stage, you need a strong personality. In the organic stage, you need a strong personality, where you have to inspect what you get. But you moving into the corporate level, you need strong system and structures and corporate governance. That is what you need when you're talking about a scale up. So every cycle has its own problems. Looking at the internal environment and the external environment too. All count. I'm paying millions in salaries and millions in social security. I can give you one simple example. I have a branch and I put this smart, very educated girl, a woman with 3 kids in charge. She sat in my company and registered her own company. She get business from my company and divert the business to her company. When I discovered and fired her, she took me to court for unlawful dismissal.
Rather?
We are in court now. Let me tell Mr. Eni not to give up. When you look at, it's so discouraging that you can't expand. You are always afraid to move a step further because you're looking at the ghost behind you. But I believe that we can make it. You need to be principled. You need to have standards. You need to have solutions. Once you go through this cycle, you are like a gold ring, where you have the gold in its raw state. You have to go through the fire. It has to be cleaned up by the blacksmith before it comes out as a beautiful wedding ring. That is how businesses goes through in Ghana. So, you, even as an employer, take yourself as a teacher and teach your employee. Teach them that I employ you to find me solutions. I did not employ you to bring me problems. You bring me problem the third time, I fire you. And some employers also take too long in firing their workers. Certain people can change. and certain people cannot be talked to. The only thing that changed them is hardship and difficulties. When they're sitting in their home and their wife and their husbands are looking at their faces, when they get the next opportunity, they hold it well. But some are inbuilt in their DNA. That is where you have to guide them. We have beautiful workers. I have some wonderful people in my company who work 24/7. And I give them my sources, depends also on my workers. So it is not you, it's the people that work for you. At times when people are celebrating me, I feel a bit weak and sad. It's not me. The celebration should go to my employees. My employees, those I'm trimming through the fire, they are those building the company. So Ghanaian employees shouldn't give up. We are entrepreneurs, and in entrepreneurs, you have to take risk before you can make the money. The biggest or the greatest entrepreneurs in the world, or the billionaires in the world, they find solutions to problems. But if we keep running away from businesses, from opportunities, we will leave the space and we will lose out in the future. The government has given us, or the government job is to give us an enabling environment to do our business. We have to pay our taxes to get that provision. The banks are also there to support us. But my problem is the employee don't understand all these things. So how do you pump it into their head to understand that my part of the bargain is to pay you X amount, X CD or X dollar. Yours, these are your KPI. Yours is to deliver this. If you cannot deliver, then you have to go home. We have to be strict as employees. I will advise anybody who wants to be an entrepreneur to be firm, have the right integrity, have the right standard, have the right attitude. So you inject that attitude into your workers. Keep your values. And don't forget, whatever you are doing, your employees are looking at you. When your integrity level is low, you give space, you are destroying your employee. You make sure you keep a very high integrity standard. It's also a sign to them that, hey, look, my boss is clean. I can't do this, I can't do that. But if the employer is also has cockroaches in his cupboard, you open yourself up. These are real issue and critical issue that employers should look at. Well, you also at the top there. There are some few things that this is for me. This is very important because I'm running the Magnan Entrepreneur Challenge, and I'm seeing it deep down in the DNA of the youth. It's in their DNA, and at times I attribute it to the syllables they read in school.
Oh,
and
really?
they don't. Yeah. They don't have street sense. There's something in business, even if you go to seek for it, there's something called street sense. And if you go to Norway, Finland, and the rest, they teach street sense. Our syllabus is too academic. Then at the end of the day, we attribute the problem to government.
As usual, yes.
And, it's serious. And I even don't know how to talk about it for you to understand. I'm in it. I'm living it. So forgive me. I'm speaking with feelings.
Oh, that's exactly what we expect from you always, Mr. Macaulay. And we think you've actually given us quite a masterclass today with the examples and the theory that you have of the cycles of business and how you have to have a different strategy at each stage in those cycles. That's fascinating. I've made notes of it, and I think a lot of people can adapt this to scale up safely without fearing having their businesses collapsed by bad employees. I want to thank you so much for the time you spent with us this morning. We have a lot more to learn from you, so let this not be our last conversation on this. Thank you so much. Daniel Macaulay of McDan Shipping.
Thank you, sir.
Wow, that was a lot. My brain has expanded, and we have even more coming your way with our two guests. Professor Peter Korte stays with us on the line, and Mr. Seth Tekwe is in the studio with us, and we're about to get into this mid-year review and all the different ways in which it affects your life and mine. We've got some big things to think about today. Stay with us, haven't we, Winston? Yeah, so when we come back, we'll start with that. But for the next few minutes, I want to say a big thank you to those who put together the commercials that we play to you on the Super Morning Show. I don't know if you've noticed, but they are of a certain rather high quality. There is some technique to the thing. You listen to these ones. Tell me what you think.
DSTV and the leaks are getting the big boys are back.